Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Let's do this. Kickstarter Roundup. This is a really interesting week this week. I'm not going to give you too many details, but stuff behind the scenes is always funny. I never knew a lot of this stuff, sort of the media, the interactions, behind the scenes before doing this channel. And so it always is just it's just interesting. I'll leave it at that. Review from Witcher was out earlier this week. That campaign is ending. There's a bunch of other stuff going on. A bunch of stuff launched this week. Hopefully this weekend I'll have time to get my video of Deliverance up for you guys. And I got a copy of Mechanical Beast, so I'm going to be playing that this weekend as well. And I need to just play more this week. So that's what I'm going to focus on. But as always, that's not why you're here. Thank you for clicking. Thank you for watching. Thank you for putting up with me and all my idiosyncrasies in the other videos. Say what you will. And let's just do this. Okay, let's go. Let's start with this one because I never heard of it. You never heard of it. It's Cricket the Game. Funded in 4 days. Look at that. So $4,000, 86 backers. That's expensive. So if you're not familiar with cricket, I'm not going to explain it. But it's another sport. It is big outside of the US. Like massive outside of the US. Like probably second only to football. See? Again, football. And so that is what you need to know. Early Bird Pledge. Okay, there you go. Cricket the Game. It's a card game, it looks like. And we're getting a longer game or a shorter game, depending on how you want to translate it. Anywhere from 2 to 4 players, head-to-head challenge. So the game itself, like I mentioned, is a card game. And you scroll down here, and they give you several different modes. They talk about the 2 different 10 versus 20 that you saw. And then they talk about the fact that this is sort of divided into segments that are classic to the actual game itself. And I'm not going to go over that. But what I'm going to go over is the gameplay here a little bit. Now, there's 2 teams. They're not asymmetrical. They're really the same, but you're going to choose your favorite one. You're going to choose a pitch condition, the field, what sort of condition it is in the first place when you're playing on it, just like any other sport. And then you're going to have the fast play if you want, how you're going to be pitching the ball. And then you're going to be then choosing how you're going to be hitting it into one of the separate field segments, and which stroke you're using in terms of trying to hit the ball. And then you're rolling to determine where it goes and how far it goes right there. And depending on where they are, okay, whether or not they catch it. So that is the typical game. And they'd say it takes anywhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours. And this is what you're getting. So you're getting all of the upgraded stuff already. They've got a solo mode that they're working on. If they get a little bit more funding, they're just under the $5,000 funding goal right now. And they have their own website that you can go check it out as well. So, playthrough video, shipping is what it is. US is a little higher, makes sense. I mean, this is a outside of the US game production in the first place. So, 0 Point Games, again, never heard of them, never heard of this game before, but $4,000, double their funding goal almost already. So, if you weren't aware of what cricket was, go look it up. It's worth a look. Next up, another one I hadn't heard of before this week, and this is Interceptor. And now this is a space fighter combat game, it says. So this one actually strikes me as more of a war game with a space theme. And I haven't looked at the rule book. That just gives me that vibe. And this is a big funding point. I mean, they have twice as much as Cricket does, but their goal is $30,000. And you can see 71 backers already at $8,000, which means that without even having to do the math, it's over $100 a pledge, right? So you have this early bird special, and then you have the $115 pledge as well. So that is what you're getting right now. And this game is one of, like I said, space combat. Each base game gets 40 fighters, and this hex map is where you're basically going to be maneuvering, as well as the fighter cards and the pilots that you're going to be using to keep track of the stats that you need to as you're dueling it out, dogfighting it out in space. And you have the Commonwealth versus the Empire, and each has its own 10 fighters with the stands that accompany it. And you can see here a little bit of the fighter and the pilot for easy reference in terms of that. And an example of the hex mat. So, full color rulebook. And I didn't see the rulebook on here though when I was looking. And it talks a little bit about the lore. It talks a little bit about the stretch goals. Stretch goal, stretch goal, stretch goal, other goals. And that's it though. I mean, so I'm surprised it's got $8,000, right? No rulebook, no video, no how to play, no what makes this unique from other combat, other maneuvering games, other war games even. So, I mean, it's worth a mention because, I mean, it's still got $8,000, but hopefully we see a little bit more, or if you're one of those 71 people, you see a little bit more before this goes anywhere. But that might be why it's having a little trouble too. We'll see where it ends up. It's got an uphill battle, but that is Interceptor. This is your weekly Japanese Kickstarter game that I can't read anything of. That's got $9,000, so we're just slowly going up on the racket. No Man's Planet. I have no idea what this is. I like the art. It looks thematic. I have no idea, folks. Moving around a hex-based grid, just like the previous one. It looks like almost a combination of area control with some mechs and some pilots with the fighting here. But I just like the aesthetic. I like looking at these. I like mentioning them to you guys. And I think they're worth talking about because this is something I would love to see imported more to the US. So international visitors down here. Project is for Japan only. I saw that earlier. If you're a publisher, though, reach out. So, you know what? I just like highlighting them. I like mentioning them. I like talking about them. And No Man's Planet. There you go. Brief and to the point. So now we're hitting a few of the ones from last week. This is Alien Exiles. This was the card game of global conspiracy, and it's definitely off to a little bit rougher start. Quick card game. Aliens are trying to occupy. You're trying to be the last one standing. So, 2 to 4 player card game. Overview. You're exiled in need of a new planet. These sneaky aliens are now casing, you know, your house, in the sense of the Earth, to basically take a permanent vacation on, as they say. So, what are you going to be doing? I mean, you have these alien cards, the action cards, and you're just going to be, you know, shuffling them. Action piles, deal 4 cards to each person, and then go. So, what are you doing on your turn? Draw a card, play a card. No limit to what you're having in your hand, and, you know, if you draw an alien card, that card doesn't go in your hand, but it's placed in front of the player, and so that alien has invaded your planet. And if you have a certain number, you lose the game. You're out. So, drawing more, having more in your hand is not necessarily a good thing. The rulebook is out there. TTS has it. Why are you backing it on Kickstarter? Okay. Guildmaster card. Badge. Social goals. A few of the other social stuff. Stretch goals. 5th player. 3rd deck. New campaign. And that's about it. Other languages, if depending on the amount of backers. And a couple videos down here at the bottom. Looks like a very straightforward, and they compare it to Exploding Kittens here. Again, I think this is a very niche game. I think a lot of these games fit in the same market, and so the question is, what makes your game stand out from the others? And the other question I would have is, you know, I would argue that Exploding Kittens probably has more appealing artwork, at least to me, and that slight aesthetic, I wonder if that's, you know, because as much as I hate to say it, we judge with our eyes first in terms of aesthetic with a lot of these games. It has to be aesthetically pleasing for me to be willing to give it more of a glance because of the Kickstarter competition nowadays. And now I'm saying that as a fault too, because I think we miss games that are not as pretty, that are good and to our liking as well. So lots of quotes, lots of reviews here. So lack of exposure is not the issue here. Lots of people have seen it. Lots of people have had hands on. So, yeah, again, I think it's the competition. What's the price point out of curiosity before I get to the top here? Print and play, it's only $15. That's not terrible. 33 gets you 2 copies of everything. So what's the funding goal? I mean, it's a larger funding goal for a card game like this. And again, I don't know. What gets funded and what doesn't get funded. I mean, you'll see that with one of these ones coming up. Like, I'm always surprised at what gets funds that I wasn't expecting. Like that cat one, that Cat 9 Lives one from a couple weeks ago. That thing had like 6 digits, right? It was over like $100,000. And I was like, what? Anyway, so Alien Exiles, check it out if you're interested. Fits a niche in the light card, you know, munchkin, not really munchkin, Exploding Kittens style of things. There you go. Again, another one we talked about last week that was on the radar that we knew was launching, Lonely Undead, where you are actually playing as the zombies trying to infect humans as opposed to the humans trying to fight off the zombies. So a twist on the typical trope. And again, I mean, they're $3,000+ in of a $15,000 goal, so you're only 20% in. So what is it looking like? And like I mentioned, it's sort of a pressure luck, sort of trying to get the most bites, trying to get a certain number before the town, the heroes, the villagers, whatever you want to call them, are, you know, getting rid of you, because that is the AI side of the game that you are used to playing. Well, now you're going against it. Again, I think this one is probably hurt a little bit by the aesthetic, because I think there's a solid game here, but it's hard, I think, with the high quality aesthetics that are out there, for people to not judge a book by its cover, even on Kickstarter right now. So they've got, again, this is a big Kickstarter page right now, and there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of exposure. So again, like the Alien Exiles, I don't think lack of exposure is the issue with these games. Not out to kill, not out to eat, game fights back, more than just a crawler. Again, I mean, this is not a lack of information in these situations. Goes through the characters, what's in the box, all your cards, your reactions. I mean, you're going to be having a lot of elements that you're going to be managing with this. So it's not just like a super simple roll and move either, because I think that would be the first impression that I would have based on this. But again, looking past that, it's not. Double-sided board. Again, plenty of quotes. Okay, so here is how you're actually playing. 2 phases. Your phase, the town phase. So you get a number of actions: move, draw, equip, sound check, attack, or bite. So you're going to be, you know, interacting that way. All of your zombies have stats that you're going to be using to do that. You draw one of those cards that we mentioned up there. You can equip it in how you're able to interact or fight, or, you know, because you have to fight essentially these humans to be able to bite them in the first place. It's not like just like an auto success when you get close enough. And then be the first one to infect 7 is how you win. So then the rules are right here. You can see the full rules right here in the rule book. And then you can see the pledge level. So 55. Okay, that's more than I thought. I'm a little surprised that it's that high. At the same time, so be it. I know prices are going up all around the board. And you get to see a little bit of what else there is down here. So there's co-op mode, there's solo mode, there's competitive mode, team mode. I mean, and again, this is what I worry about, like I've mentioned, even with the big games. Like, I don't need every mode, and I want one mode to be super, super good. Less is more sometimes. But you can have multiple modes that are good as well. So it doesn't really eliminate that. Oh gosh, kid interruptions. Anyway, mutated mode. So polyomino mode. Denser level play for more strategy. And again, I mean, you're building essentially the area of the town in a turn order style placement. And I guess I look at that and I go, that almost seems like a completely different game. And would you be better off like separating those and dedicating one or the other? Does that also affect, one, the price point of the $55? And does it also affect the goal in the first place, right? And so if that was separate, you know, how much is that adding? Because, you know, I said that with some of the big ones too, with Bloodstone, right? If I'm getting a PvE and a PvP, but I feel like I'm paying more for just the PvP and I don't want that element, I mean, sometimes it's not a big deal, but other times it is, when the price point is more significant, when, again, I only have a certain amount of dollars for all the projects to go around. So again, just a minor thing, but it's something that just crosses my mind when I read this. But again, I mean, all these videos, all these quotes in the hands of so many people. Again, you know, as I've mentioned before, a lack of exposure is not the issue here, but this is also a $70 game with the shipping to the US right there. So that is also a concern as well. So, I mean, again, like the other ones, they've got an uphill battle, but we'll see where it ends up. That's Lonely Undead. Check it out. Okay, if you don't get, I was referring to this one. This is the one I was referring to earlier, saying I am just always surprised about what gets what numbers. I mean, $173,000 for a tabletop board game drinking game. So, I mean, obviously the market is there. I am not said market. I don't drink alcohol at all. So, but they're already over 3 times their funding goal. So let's check it out why they're over 3 times their funding goal already. Let's see, blah, 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 blah. Band of Monsters has stolen all the drinks. They've hoarded them away. You need to go find them, outsmart your opponents, and reclaim the hoard of drinks. So your character's health is measured by the drink in your glass. So, I mean, this is a quintessential literal party game in that sense. A drinking party game, literally and metaphorically. So, build your dungeon, fight monsters, collect power-ups, gain stronger, reach the Grand Drink Guardian, and go at it. Liquid life system, custom dungeon. I mean, I can see the appeal, minus the alcohol. Like, if you're creating your own unique dungeon with these hexes, these monsters with different personas, I mean, that does seem engaging and it seems fun and it seems different. So, And I guess, they say here straight up for people like me, you can use water, you can use soda, you can use whatever beverage you want. So no big deal. And I mean, that would be another big concern is that these are waterproof. So I guess that's, like the previous campaign, Lonely Undead, is that going to affect the price point? So let's check it. I haven't really looked here. $38. So I have no idea that waterproofing stuff was that cheap, but maybe it is. There you go. Health bar cups, plastic cups, room tiles, loot cards. Yeah. 20-sided die. So you even get your own 20-sided dies. Pledge tiers. Oh, just kidding. $35 was the merchant level. So $60. That makes more sense with all this stuff that you're getting. I like the aesthetic on the hexes, though. I can see why it's appealing. $80, what gets you the party pack? At least, yeah, I was also concerned there that you weren't going to get the stretch goals at the 60, but you are. So they're not, like, locking you in. You can play it on Roll20 at the $70 level or the $95. And custom, $1,500 gets you a custom monster. Okay. And the king gets you $2,500. Okay. So how are you playing? There you go. Construct the dungeon, just basically putting these hexes out however you want. In the illustration here, you're dealt 3 loot cards, roll to see who goes first, flip adjacent, facing off whatever you reveal, and you just fight. You must roll level or higher to defeat it. Claim a power-up or a loot, and if you roll off a boss, you go against an opponent. If you lose, you get flipped back over in terms of the location, and drink away some of the HP, depending on how much you lose by. There you go. It's straightforward. There's a rulebook right there. You can check it out. It is what it is. And so, obviously, people like it. It is something different. It is something unique. I haven't seen anything out there like it, so I can see why people are supporting it. Now, again, just the whole alcohol theme doesn't do anything for me. So, and I wouldn't do this with a different drink. I just wouldn't. I am not personally the market for this, but obviously, like I said, people are excited by this. People like the idea of this. And maybe I think the Roll20, you're getting some of the D&D crowd as well, sort of the mixer. Excuse the pun there. Anyway, but that's what it is. And so that is Hero of Barcadia. And it's doing really well. And check it out if you're interested. There you go. Next up is Book of Villainy. You're not a very good villain, so you're writing a book. If you can't do right, is that the phrase? I don't think so. But it is almost at its funding goal. It's like 83% or so of its funding goal, 5,000 out of 6,300 right now. So let's check it out. So what are you doing in this game? You are a B-list villain. Not C, not A, you're B. And you're moving around to locations, recruiting henchmen, doing pranks, petty crimes, and you're writing it down in your memoirs, essentially. This is probably why it's interesting and worth a look at if you're not familiar, because what it says right here for the board game nerds, for us, it's Rondel-based set collection and tableau building, right? You don't see Rondel used, and when you think of superhero games, the first thought you have is definitely not, there's going to be a Rondel mechanism in it, right? So I think that's why you really need to check this one out. And I think that's why it's doing a little bit better from an aesthetic side of things, because I can make the argument that it is more akin to some of the earlier games in the video aesthetically. But if you have some of the other mechanisms, and superheroes in general are more catching than other themes, and there has to be some influence there. So let's check it out. Location tiles, character standees, henchman cards, reference cards, chapter cards. So what are you actually doing? So you're going around these locations and you're going in a clockwise manner. And that is the Rondel portion of things in the location. And so you're choosing an action that you can do at that location. You can either do bad things or good things, but bad things are going to get the attention of the hero. And if you do, you'll have to give up some of your henchmen, which are helping you to even make it away in the first place. Then, based on what you do, you're recruiting henchmen, and you're using the deeds so then you can write them in your memoirs. Now, here is the other interesting part, the tableau management set collection-ish. The editor wants a book that's organized. Now you have to arrange it and put it in certain themes, as you can see, to get certain points. Now, when you pull the rule book up here a second, they give a little bit more exposition to some of these actions. And obviously you can, use your henchman cards. You can use a scapegoat henchman if the hero has moved to your location, or 2 other random henchmen. But the thing that they say is that you cannot move, as I illustrated on this map up here, to other locations that are occupied by other villains already. So your selection is a little bit limited based on how the other people are playing. And you may like that, you may not like that. I like this quote too. The library? No thanks. Books are for nerds. Nerd! Anyway, and you can also, those chapters that I mentioned, you can plagiarize someone else's. You can place your token on any other chapter card that an opponent has written. So that's a nice element. And then it just goes through the symbology here as well that you're going to see in the game. Swapping chapters, moving a single chapter, gaining gadgets, charge all your gadgets when you've used them, and it just goes through the examples here. So it's relatively straightforward. How do you win? You have the most victory points after somebody writes the 6th chapter. And it's got a little bit of victory point conditions here. 3 points for the longest ascending run of chapters, victory points on the ribbon of each chapter, and according to the theme in the upper left that we saw in the illustration previously. And again, there's other ways that the themes are going to be interacting and scoring, so it runs through an example there, and that's it. It's relatively straightforward. I can see why people like it. I can see why it's doing what it's doing. Again, it's not for me, but I think it's really an interesting project. So everyone that's done it, all of the social side of things, what now is the price point? I never saw that yet. $30. Okay. $30. US shipping is $8. So $38 for this. I can see why it's funding. Or going to be funding. Definitely something unique, especially with that ramble mechanism. So if that interests you, if that intrigues you, you like superheroes or supervillains, you like being a B-lister. I like being a B-lister. Anyway, check it out. Book of Villainy. Next up, Overstocked. Again, another one that we caught our eyes on last week from the video, and you are going back, time traveling to the 90s, and you are trying to amass the most of these trendy toys, items, gadgets, whatever they may be, into your warehouse, but you're trying to buy low, sell high, but also not have too many, because if you have too many, then you're actually going to get penalized, because, you know, if everybody's got it, it's not as cool and trendy anymore, right? So that's what this game is about. And see, like I said, stay ahead of the latest craze, influence the demand, and try not to end up overstocked. Beanie Babies is a great example there. Anyway, my kids, side note, my kids are totally invested in Beanie Babies right now for some odd reason. Like, their grandparents have a couple of them, and so like that size of animal is now all of a sudden their, you know, we have 100 stuffed animals, it seems like, but they want more of that size. So my 5-year-old is obsessed with like Arctic animals right now. So all of a sudden I have an Arctic fox, like semi Beanie Baby-ish thing. I don't know. Anyway, I came home from the other day to it. I don't even ask anymore. So this is what you're doing. You have 6 rounds in order to either play a card, increase your own stock, or increase your share of the popularity. And you can also do that to manipulate the value of the kinds of toy. And you'll see what it means by that when I scroll down here a little bit, because this is not only a card sort of driven game, but it is spatial. And that is what makes this game unique. And that's what you need to know, because, I mean, look, it's got all of these, you know, larger named video people talking about it, and it's $23 for a pledge. And that's not bad at all. So you get the expansion there as well. So how are you playing this? What is the meat of this game? So 1 card face up, each player, 1 card in the middle. Straightforward. Those are your beginning warehouses. Now you get 6 more cards, and that is all you're going to get. And what you do is you simultaneously choose 1 card to reveal. Then, in numerical order, because these cards all have numbers on them, you decide where you want to place your card. You can place it onto your own warehouse, increasing what you have, into the shared one, influencing the demand, and then you can see how it affects things. This is the interesting tableau, and this is the same thing that Fall of the Mountain King is doing, is you have to overlap with 2 to join it, whether it's on the shared one or your own personal one. You can rotate it though. I mean, it's, you know, it's adaptable, but you're not allowed to crush any workers. So, you know, be aware of that. That's no-no. It's a no-no in this one. OSHA is heavily invested in these warehouses. So this is the gist of it though. And this is the interesting thing. You know, you've got these areas of toys that you can be making, and position workers to limit your card placement by opponents on the central one in terms of the popularity. But, and this is the big but. I didn't just say that, big but. Anyway, I did. Twice now. At the end of the game, you multiply each toy you have by the largest connected area in the popularity. However, you do it for all toys. but the one with the largest one scores negative points. There you go. There is the interaction. There is the take that. There is the spatial thinking that you're going to have to coordinate of having a lot of the others, but maybe not having the one that has the most. And how are you going to balance that between your central area and your own personal warehouse? And that is the interesting part of this game. And that is why I think people are interested by it. I think that's why people are really looking at this one heavily, because the cute aesthetic, I think, is going to hide the deceptively complex and spatially interesting side of the actual play. But I think that's why it's already got $5,000. I would be surprised, knowing that side of things, if this doesn't fund. And if you like that side of things, especially with that tableau overlaying management between the central one and your opponents, I think you really need to check this one out. Looks like it is deceptively good, but there you go. That is Overstocked. Again, we're hitting up the ones from last week. Traps, a sort of roll and move in line of the jungle theme, where you have 4 characters, 4 animals, and you are getting a random combination of the two and getting their strengths and being able to use them, and where you are laying traps down for your opponents, but also even if you land on them, you can get some benefit. And that's the gist of this game. So let's see what there is else. So, hand management, roll and move, asymmetrical characters, a lot of take that. And I'm glad that they're very upfront about it, because certain people like take that and certain people don't. I am one of those that does. So let's see, what are they actually funding? Okay, so 3,000 out of 25,000. So again, interesting funding point, 25,000. Again, I have no clue what goes into that, so it's always interesting for me to see who chooses what and how much. So no player is going to emerge unscathed. Schemes, strategies, there we go. They go through a little bit of what's in the game, what you're getting, go through some of the trap cards. So, I mean, it's very straightforward. This is a good, I think, this would be a good kids game. This would be a very interesting kids game from this side of things. Each adventurer has a unique once-a-game ability. There's the asymmetry that I'm talking about, as well as the animals. This just looks interesting. It looks like almost a combination of Luxor as well, if you're familiar with Luxor, like reverse Luxor, though, because with Luxor, you're moving your little explorers around and you're taking the tiles off and putting them in your personal collection. In this game, you're having your traps and you're putting them down into these areas as you're going across. And Luxor is a surprisingly fun game, especially with kids. It takes the next level. It reminds me, I haven't played that with my kids in a long time. Anyway, but that is what it sort of gives me the vibe of, only in a reverse manner, like I mentioned. How do you play? Exactly. Okay, rolling, grabbing traps, moving, buying cards, trying to figure out which one is going to be best for you, where you're going to be playing them, and there you go. Yeah, I mean, I see this, without even getting down to this, I didn't know that they were advertising this as a family game. This is my first time looking at this page, so I would agree with this. This is more of a modern family game, and I guess it would just depend probably of price point and how much your kids can do take that. I don't know if you know about like kids side of things, but like some kids, especially at the ages, like you knock them off the board, you take them, or we play Sorry, and Sorry is enough take that it's now funny because my kids are older, but one of my kids, especially my oldest one, is not always the most gracious loser if it goes against him. So we just need to be careful on that side of things with a game like this. I talked a little bit about the rules last week. If you roll doubles, you go again. Just a few other nuances in this. If you land on an opponent, you steal money from them. If they have both of their pieces out there, they steal double the money. And you can pick one to steal one. And this is, I mean, again, very Luxor reminiscent in terms of how you're doing that with multiple people managing, going throughout the path until you get to the end. Playing traps, pay now, pay later, whichever you want to do. It puts down the price in terms of how you're going to be able to do them or play them. And it just goes through the other actions that you're going to have and the other things that you're going to be able to do. So, I mean, I agree. This looks like a great kids game. It's definitely kid-friendly, aesthetic-wise, theme-wise. And I guess I'm just wondering, what is the price point? I haven't gotten to that on the page yet. $36. That's not bad. That's not bad, actually. I was expecting it to be more. Now, that's $4 off, 10% off with the early bird price, but that's not bad. More adventurers, more animals, depending on if they hit their stretch goals. But I guess I would be wondering, I mean, again, this is, shipping's $12. So $48 is, that's expensive for a kid's game, though. It is. With my other kids game, because again, this tweener market on this side of things, like, is very unique. It has to be very hit or miss because, like I mentioned, my kids want to play Luxor, right? Which is not a kid's game. Or we're playing Sorry, which is more of a kid's game. Like, there's not a big filler between those. And they don't always want to play the filler. They want to play daddy games, right? And this fits a niche, but for $48, I'd be concerned that, you know, again, kids are kids and the whims of kids change like the wind. That would be my biggest concern. Now, if this was, you know, $25, $30 with shipping, I might be willing to risk it. Especially with the youngest one still being in diapers and not even 10 months old. But I think it's worth checking out if you have kids of this age. And I wish, I mean, this game gets picked up by like Haba or something like that. Not Haba, but you know what I'm talking about. One of those. I could see this doing really well at a retail side of things. But Kickstarter is definitely more adult heavy, adult friendly. And so I think maybe that's why you're seeing it suffer. But it's Traps. Check it out. It's worth the look. Next up, again, another one that I hit on last week. And again, I'm a little surprised that this one isn't funding at a higher level. And I think, again, the plethora of Kickstarter, the quality of Kickstarter, there's only so much money to go around, would be just, without looking at anything else on this page, why this one is having trouble right now. Because this one is, you know, just over 20% of the way funded. And I thought this was a unique combination of sort of area control, tile placement, and worker placement. And it is competing, selling tulips at the highest price, bringing them to where they need to be brought, and a little bit of tile laying along the way. And again, I don't know. I mean, this is the one that I'm surprised isn't higher funding so far. All of the others, I mean, yes, I would think that some would be higher, but this is the biggest surprise to me so far. Maybe second only to our Barcadia, which is exceeding any thought that I would have had from the funding side of things. So it's, again, like I talked about last week, you grab a tile, you either lay it down or you lay it over, and then you farm it as well. So then you can grab a farmer, put it down, you're transporting via the boats, and when you reach the market, you get paid. Rules are out there, Tabletopia's out there, $38. Again, I mean, the price point seems fair, especially with the wooden components and the wooden meeples. I'm surprised. I'm surprised this one is not doing better. Lots of stretch goals there. Again, not hurting from lack of exposure. Again, you had a dice tower thing at the top. You know, again, it's just surprising to me. It's got everything I would look for on a page in the first place. It is what it is. I don't know. What do you guys think? Blooming industry. Is it intriguing to you? Do you like that combination of mechanics or not? Again, the combination could be a turn off. It could be a turn on. If you are looking for something new and different. The aesthetic is nice. It's pleasing. Blooming industry. Check it out. Next up is Jackpot Payout. Again, not a theme that has any appeal to me, but it's already almost $2,000. It's almost 20% of its funding goal. It's a deck building game of slots, right? Okay. So what do we got here? Deck building, chance, moxie, great word there. Mox, anyway, I'm not getting on a wrestling tangent. Mox, that's in my head now. So what are you doing? You reveal 3 cards of your deck, put them up. If these cards have any instruction, you follow them. Then, if they match, jackpot. Score all cards, and your turn. So what do? If you're not matching, you take a card from the display, you add it to your discard pile, replace the card in the display, and move all your cards to the discard pile. I'm seeing a lot of his videos this week. Game Enthuse. There you go. Putting stuff out there. Solo game as well. What's included? All of the cards, all of the options, all of the tokens, the pledge levels, a little bit of a breakdown, the stretch goals. And again, not an issue from exposure. Previews, rule links, pledge manager. Okay, so what do we got with the rule book? Talking through a little bit of what I said. Different card types, if you need to be aware of that. Card anatomy, the number of coins that you're getting when scored. The symbology that's there. Whatever ability is down here. And whether or not it's a solo play card. So again, you start out with 11 cards, symmetrical decks, and there you go. sort of they're giving you a different market size, if you will, depending on if it's your first game or not. You can use the introductory set or a more expert set, so that's nice. Playing with different players is going to allow you to start off with different money in the bank, shuffling up, and then doing what I said. That 3-card, score, not, take one, move on. Empty deck, shuffle re-in, end of game, bank runs out of coins. Okay, it's relatively straightforward. So what is the price point again for this one? $2, $12, and that's the print and play. So again, $37. That's more than I would have expected. It is what it is, though. It's a deck building game. $60 gets you metal coins as well. So that is Jackpot Payout. It's definitely a unique theme. It's definitely a different take on the deck building. It seems very straightforward. Check it out if you're interested in something different in the deck building side. Next up is Skeptics, game of paranormal investigation. Now, this says it's a relaunch. I don't remember this one coming the first time around, so let's dive in. Cooperative dice rolling, sort of maybe the more adult version of ghost fighting treasure hunters. It's the vibe it gives me, at least to begin with. And what are you doing here? Okay, aesthetic is very pleasing. A little bit of background, what are you getting here? A little bit of everything. Great. So what are you actually doing here? How are you playing? You get one of 2 environments. You need to prove that the ghost exists and 3 special items to use during the game. Okay. You need to find evidence of the haunting by midnight, completing these icon sets. You have investigator items to help you do it better and faster, and you have different actions that you're going to be able to do each round that you're going to be playing. Move around, okay. Find objects that seem out of place. Search them for clues. Roll the blue clue die to match the symbols. Well, you know, that's a little bit hit or miss, a little bit of Elder Sign-esque right there. If you can get the clue, then you get a chance to solve it. In order to make it work, you have some doors that might be locked, so you have to, again, roll. And again, I can see that, you know, a lot of people don't like that style of things. That is a turn off in a lot of games. It's worth talking about, but it's also, you know, something that people always don't like. At midnight, strange events happen. Fire, having lights go out, items malfunction, ghost appears, and appears once in each room. So that's a unique mechanic. And you want to gather where the ghost will appear, so that you can gather the information and prove it exists. So, okay. It's definitely a unique theme. It's definitely a unique mechanic in terms of that room only appearing once. Some stretch goals there. Kickstarter exclusive promo pack. Again, not a lack of exposure. Lots of people looking at it, talking about it, videos about it. So again, there's plenty of stuff to look out. And let's see the price point here as we're getting down to the bottom. $50, okay. $50. $100 gets you all stretch goals and a postcard. Oh, play online with the designer. There you go. So, interesting. And a little bit of how things are built up, how they built the setting and the board. Again, the aesthetic is appealing. $50, again, I'm not interested in it, but it's definitely a lighter style search and find game than you see out there. But I think, again, the dice is going to either attract people that don't mind it, or it's going to turn people off in terms of that. Because I'm not sure how much you can mitigate, but I'm sure that the rulebook talks about it more. If you're interested, check out Skeptics. Next up is the trio of games, XYZ Quarks Season 1. If you are a fan of the pocket-sized games, you need to check this out because they give you both a bluffing, a strategy, and a social game, all for the price point of $30, as it says up here. They are, you know, just under 50% of the funding goal. Again, like, a lot of these small projects are getting money, but not also getting as much as I would have expected. Game trays is involved, 3-game bundle. So here are the 3 games that you're getting. Zoo Year's Eve, Cultivate, and I'm thinking that says Bait and Switch. So let's see. So meet the Quarks here, meet the 3 games, Zoo Year's Eve. Party animals crash in it. Bluffing game for 2 to 6 players. All your animals need to get into the party in order for you to win. So it looks like a little bit of BS. Yeah. Okay. Straightforward. Second game, Cultivate. Plot, draft, and plant. Spatial laying game where you draft plants and arrange them around the garden. Score points by creating sets of similarly growing plants. And if you have the most sets, getting the most points, you win. Cover the bugs so you don't lose points. And you can either draft a plant, or get trinkets for extra points. Again, straightforward. And the third game, Bait and Switch. 2-part social deduction game, 3 to 9 players. Discuss a heist, pick a crew, and decide whether you're going to stay loyal, split the loot, or double cross and try and keep it all for yourself. So 5 rounds. Now you want 35 points, but it also says you don't want to go over. So that's an interesting twist on the party game. Assemble your crew, split the loot, play 5 heists. So, again, not going over. That one actually looks like the most interesting one to me. All the rule books are on here as well, so it's definitely worth checking out. It looks like a very low sort of overhead in terms of how they're designed, as well as, like I mentioned at the beginning, small box games. Man versus Meeple, Unfiltered Gamer. A lot of these guys, again, Tantrum House. There you go. Straightforward. Price is good. Again, I'm a little surprised this one isn't doing better. Now, is it going to fund? We'll see. But if you're looking for something along the size of the button shy games, the pocket style, check out this XYZ Quarks for 3 completely separate games that you can get individually or all 3 together. There you go. This one is the one I'm most interested in right now. I have a copy sitting upstairs on my table. I've played it through a couple times. I'll be putting out a video hopefully in about a week talking about the things you should know, pluses, minuses of Deliverance, the game of spiritual warfare, where you are playing as angels fighting off one of the various demons and his minions in order to win. The basis of this game, and this is doing great, by the way, it's almost, 4 times its funding goal right now, and the basis of this game is that you have these miniatures as well as the standees, and I like the combination, and I think that has definitely influenced the price point, and I think that's also why, as a dungeon crawler with a lot of standees and only a few miniatures, you can get the base game for only $59. And I think, that's the most appealing level to me as one who always says I like standees, but the deluxe edition is still only $89. Now, some of the funding is because you can get the all-in, you can get some of the upgrades, the deluxeifications, if you will. Now, they had this on the Facebook group as well that I was sort of a part of, that you can get professionally hand-painted miniatures. And so they put this price point out there. They surveyed people on there to see if people were interested in it. And yes, this is a huge, massive price, but people are interested in it, and so they did it. And you can also get, a designer prototype. So, if people are interested and people are willing to pay, it doesn't really matter what the game is. I said that with Barcadia, right? To each their own. But what are you doing in this game? This takes sort of a, to paraphrase this and to use this, a cooperative tactical game where you are angels treading across these tiles, knocking out the demons, trying not to get knocked out yourself, trying to make it to the final boss and be able to beat them. And spoilers here, this is a hard game. Do not be fooled that the skirmish is very hard. Now, I don't have access to the campaign. It's only the skirmish mode. So that is what my review and my thoughts are going to be based off of. But that is what you need to know. And there is also a campaign. So I would really be interested to see what the campaign is going to look like differently. The artwork is fantastic. Even the prototype that I have, it's fantastic. A little bit of everything. You have a solo mode as well that's thrown in there. Talents, minions, demons, the fallen princes, those are the bosses, in case you're not familiar. The good guy cards and the bad guy cards, the prayer and the darkness cards. And the darkness cards are probably the most unique mechanic here. And I'll talk about these when we get down here a little bit of past everything, what else you're getting. Again, talking about the miniatures there. And I'm sure we're going to see some pre-painted ones. Yep, here we go with the all-ins. I like the playmat, though. So what all are you getting? Okay, I'm going to skip past that. We talked about that already. And stretch goals, they're hitting stretch goals. Now, deluxe only. So if you're like me and you're going to cheap out at the 59, you're not going to get that necessarily. But you're getting a little bit more of everything. And this is the other thing that I'm going to mention here are the dice. And that's 2 of the things that I'm going to mention in my review. How are you playing this game? The rulebook is relatively good. It's probably one of the better rulebooks I've read recently. You can play it online. People have been playing it online even before it launched, so people were interested from that side of things. So, brief synopsis. Choose your angel. I think there's something like 8 or 10 in the game already that I have, and you lay out a number of tiles that's equal to the number of angels. So in my games right now, if I'm playing with 2 tiles, I have 2 angels. 3 angels, 3 tiles. and you're moving around on these grids using the powers that you have. And each of these angels has 4 abilities, and they are distinctly unique to the angels. They are also slight variations of each other. So each one has a move, but each one moves differently, manipulates stuff differently, uses each of the stats alongside of the board of the angel slightly differently. Is it an area attack? Is it a secret attack? Is it a sort of a mix? How is that working? Then the darkness cards that I mentioned. So each round you're going to be laying these darkness cards out along the top. Now, if you have open spaces, you put them in the open spaces, but you do it so face down. Now, if you need to lay more out in the future, it flips them up one by one for each one that you need to put out that you can't put out. If all of them are flipped up, then your angels just take damage. Now, the bosses have their own separate ones that are ramped up, and that is really the pandemic-esque control mechanism that you're using to sort of mitigate and trying to keep track of during the game, because those are bad things. Let me be very clear. They are bad things. They do bad things to your characters. They create bad conditions for you to have to deal with. And that is the most unique, probably, mechanic to this game in the first place. I mean, the moving around, the abilities, you can see it done elsewhere. It's not, super unique in that sense, but the darkness and how it interacts and how it creates situations is. So that is the sense of it. Now, after you beat everybody on the map, that's when the bad guy comes out. That's when the boss comes out, and that's when you have to fight. And these bosses are no joke. I'll talk about that more in my review as well. There is enough information out there as well that the rulebook, the videos, the other people that have, looked at this, again, there's not a lot of question with this game what you're getting. And I will give you more details. I'll show you a little bit of gameplay in my video. I'll do it sort of like I did with The Witcher. I'll give you a little bit of everything. Thoughts on the campaign, when we're there, when it launches, of what's upgraded and what's, different between now and then. But also a little bit of gameplay and my thoughts, pros and cons. So that's Deliverance. Check it out. If you want to see more from me, wait, because I will. Next up, again, another smaller game that is having trouble. That seems to be the theme this week, and I don't know why. Is Witcher really absorbing all of the funds from everybody? Anyway, Battle of Gog. And this is another interesting take on this style of games. It's only a sixth of the way funded, and the price point is $39. They're offering this big Gog miniature for like $50, and so you can get the whole thing for like $89. You can see it right there. Strategy, area control, 2 to 4 players, heavy player interaction. Now again, how do you feel about that heavy player interaction? You're trying to find these sacred scrolls as you go over the land. So you are laying these tiles down. The box is used as the game board. So each game is going to be played differently with how you lay them down. They go over a little bit what's in the game, the scrolls, the resources that you're using. How do you actually play the game though? See, there's the statue. I'm sorry, $59. That's why the $89 pledge for both of them is saving you like $9. So, okay, there's the miniature, upgrades, game rules. So game rules here. What are you actually doing then? So here is a copy of the rules. They go through how you're winning the game. Either you're having one of the several variants, you're obtaining all 5 of the scrolls, you're placing 4 soldiers in the corners of the map, or there's variants in terms of conquering other people's cities or being the last city of any player. So it is turn by turn and clockwise around. So you're gathering resources, you're buying upgrades, you're pulling and playing the treasure chest cards, and then you're rolling die. And that, I guess, is where there might be a little bit of an issue, is how much die rolling is there. So you're placing these guys around on the map. So you start off placing into your corner, and you're going to be manipulating those, building cities as you go around. You can see a little bit of the resource cards, the treasure cards, and the various ability cards that you can gain throughout the game. If you want to conquer, you have to have 3 soldiers that are of the same level, and they have to surround it. Gog, obviously, is part of the game as well. Gog and the Angel of Retribution are these influencing factors in the game, where Gog is giving you blessings of being able to fill your resources, but the Retribution Angel can eliminate in the opposite manner. So that is, just really quick overhead view. Again, plenty of stuff out there, plenty of videos, plenty of thoughts, quotes. Again, I'm not really sure why the $18,000 funding goal. It's got $3,000. I have no idea. Stuff this week is just, not getting funded for whatever reason. So again, Battle of Gog, it's definitely unique in how it's interacting. The die rolling is different. The area control with moving Gog and the Angel of Retribution is different. I suggest you go check it out if you're interested in area control with Take That. Highly strategic, but easy to get to the table. There you go. Next up, Edict, Solar Contention. Again, this is a massive funding goal. Holy cow, 84,000. It's got 12,000. Again, like, it's not that these games aren't getting money. It's just that the money and the funding goals there's a disconnect, I guess. And I don't really know from that side of things. But competitive strategy game, 2 to 5 players. You're leading one of these, I think, 5 corporations. And it's a non-combat 4E game, if you will. Not 4X, 4E, they say. Explore, exploit, expand, export. So you want to commercially dominate the solar system. And basically you're trying to get resources because the edict is that Earth is running out of resources, and you're trying to, get everything that you need to bring back and be the most successful in doing it. So, space Elon Musk, essentially, is what they mention it being up there. And expansion, stretch goals, I mean, those are very interesting stretch goals. These are very forward-thinking stretch goals. I mean, these stretch goals are well over, the funding goal of just 60,000 euros, 60,000 pounds. So more stretch goals coming. Game organizations that I mentioned last week, they're asymmetrical in how they're going to be working. The symbology that you're going to be using in terms of the action planning in terms of the game. And again, this is well outside of my area of expertise. The 4X side of things, the 4E side of things in this case, is definitely not within my comfort zone. So I can't really tell you what's different, what's unique about this, and why you should do this over something else. They talk about the tech tree, essentially, that they're going on here, as well as the system that you're going to be shooting out your workers and your ships to in order to get those resources. And they talk about a little bit of everything. I mean, they go over this in great detail. The aesthetic is definitely there. It is pleasing. The rule book is there. Again, I'm not going to be able to give this one due diligence. It's got $12,000. I mean, I'm surprised it's such a big funding goal, I guess. Again, I have no clue what goes into that. And this is another one where I go, why isn't this one funded? What am I missing? And so I can't speak to that exactly, but let's take a look at the price level just for the sake of doing so. $85. Okay, you're getting 20 miniatures to go along with it. And $100 gets you a little bit of extra storage, as well as the first generation solar lab. So that comes through. So it's the durable storage boxes for 15 bucks. Okay, yeah. Okay. There you go. Again, I don't know. Does this appeal to people? I mean, it still has a chance of funding. Obviously, I mean, 28 more days to go, but that's a big gap there. So we'll see where it ends up. Hopefully, it gets some more momentum. Hopefully, it stays on track, and we'll kind of see how it does in the end. But that is Edict, Solar Contention. Check it out. Next up, from Japanime Games, Domina Anthology 2. 3 games, Margot, Latria, and Night Clan. All separate card-based games. Again, $16,000. Japanime, again, like I mentioned earlier with the Japanese games, definitely people trend towards it or trend away from it. I am usually trending towards, but I backed actually the first Anthology, and I only got one of the games, Mirrorless, which was interesting to me. And the artwork is fantastic, but the game just left me wanting. And so I just don't have any appeal from this side of things as much as I do like these. But these are unique games. These are games that are going to be definitely different. You're trying to recover fairies in Margot Le Fay, and you're trying to earn victory points by being able to bring them back. But you need to be able to be careful because you need to use your fairies' powers in order to do so, and you have to be very careful about the timing of when you do so. They give a little bit of overview here. Again, none of these are like super big box games. The components are minimalistic, and the artwork is fantastic. One of the other bigger problems I had with the Mirrorless was the artwork was so beautiful, but then the text was so small, and it was in this cursive, and you needed to read other people's from the other side of the table, and you just couldn't. And so it was very difficult. So the rule books being on here is definitely appealing. Latria, again, you're using celestial powers to in order, and you're trying to do that over 7 rounds to get the most influence. They give, again, a little bit of a setup, 60 player cards, the asymmetry there, again, a rule book, and then Night Clan. I guess that was my other concern, was Night Clan was available on the Japanime Games website when I looked last week. So is this different? Is this the same? I think it was 14 bucks there. Again, reading the rule book. I'm not going to dive into all 3 of these. But, okay. So 20, 15, and 15. $50 for all three with some limited edition slipcase and postcards. And a little bit of everything for 150 bucks, including sleeves. You can buy them, again, separately if you want. Or you can get the previous anthology that I mentioned as well. So, playmats, pin sets. There you go. Shipping is pretty reasonable. I mean, I know why it's funded. I mean, these are good games. I don't think you're going to break the bank. I don't think you're going to be anything outstanding, but they're very solid in terms of card games that are definitely unique, because that is the one thing I will say about a lot of these imports is the Japanese style of game is distinctly different. And if you haven't played these games, if you haven't checked them out, I think you need to, because again, it's something out there that sort of tickles the brain in a different way, and you might be surprised and you might find something that you like, especially with how different all three of these are. So that is the Domina Anthology. Japanime Games, check it out. Next up is AracKhan Wars. Now, disclaimer, I'm backing this one right now because I want to see where it goes. A couple of you commented in the comment sections that you were impressed by how it played even prior to the campaign launch. And again, it's probably easily the second biggest funding this week behind Barcadia. So why is that, and what makes this unique? Because that was my big concern last week when I was talking about this, is what makes it different, what makes it unique. And to be honest, some of it is unique. It reminds me more of Summoner Wars, but it's more of an area control style game done with cards. And it's different in the sense that you are destroying these cards on the map, you are moving them around, they are giving each other bonuses, they are all worth certain points. So it is the one who has the most points at the end that's going to win. The artwork is definitely pleasing. The price point, 61 euros for, the pledge level that I'm getting, including the expansions, both expansions. I'm going to have to watch some more gameplay on this one. But that is the gist of things. You're going to be taking these cards, laying them face down, flipping them up, activating them, moving them around in order to interact, in order to boost them, in order to deal damage to the other player's cards and get them removed from the field. That is what you're going to be able to do. And that is what makes this game, unique, but different as well. And I like the idea of this. Now, I guess the other side of things is Summoner Wars 2 is coming out from Plaid Hat Games. The early reviews and the early mentions of it are good. And it is in this ilk. I mean, it's different, but it is in this ilk. And so that's going to be the question of, okay, well, am I better off getting that for 45 or 50 bucks as opposed to this one for 75 when I can get this, in February 2022-ish, or I can get Summoner Wars in, a month or two. So, again, it is what it is. How are you playing this? Like I mentioned, drawing your cards, putting your cards down. You each play your cards face down after each other, alternating. Then you reveal them, place the token on there, and then you begin activating some of them in the order that you choose. And that's the unique thing. I have a game like Captain Dice upstairs that uses a similar mechanism in the order in which you choose to do them, and you can see the attack and the defense values. I mean, so this is definitely something different, and you can see why it appeals to me because I like this. Now, I don't think this is going to be a 4-player game. I think this is a 2-player game. It comes with pre-built decks, but I think you can also customize it a little bit as well. So if you want to do that, you can, because I think it talks about the fact that you can get up to 125 points as the value of your deck. The battle mat? Is that an actual mat and not a game board? I hope so. That would be cool. Okay. This is the pledge level I'm at right now. What am I getting? I'm getting these 2 extra expansions. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to watch a little bit more. I want to see what some of these special abilities are and if they're worth it. Because this is one I could easily see myself going other way. Now, this is the part I don't like, though, is you're content locking some of this stuff. And this is a big price point difference, right? $120 versus $74. I mean, that's $45 for an extra expansion and a bigger battle mat. Man. And legendary foil cards. Now, again, are these different or are they just foiled? I don't need sleeves. Can I get some of the other add-ons? Okay, good, I can. But again, it's not cheap. Okay, fair enough. Stretch goals, they're hitting stretch goals. Like I said, I'm going to be watching some video on this. They've got enough video down here that I'm going to be seeing whether or not I'm going to be keeping this. But I think it's worth a shout out, and I think it's worth a shot, especially if you're looking for something of this ilk. It is different. Question is it different enough for you? Will you play something like this? Do you have someone to play something like this with? Are they going to enjoy it? So that's what I'm going to have to figure out. But that is AracKhan Wars. Check it out. Okay, so next up we have So Sus, which is a game of social deduction, teamwork, and bluffing. It's basically taking the concept of Among Us and trying to make it into a board game tabletop side of things. So you get a little bit of the background, you're going into the cyberpunk universe, you get an interesting piece of headgear here as part of the game as well, and these are the goggles that they're calling it, the cyberpunk probe option. So you can see a little bit of what you're going to be doing. You're trying to figure out who is, the traitor. Okay, so 15 euro, 25 euro, tier 2. Okay, 35 gets the vision restricting goggles to make being the imposter more fun. So they're doing that, you can tell. And a little bit of that, and there's a couple of videos, stretch goals, why back now? And there's not a whole lot else on there. And so, if you want to attract people, I think I need more mechanics on the actual page itself, because this doesn't tell me what I'm doing. All you're saying is Among Us. So I just need more. Like, why are these goggles important? Why is vision restricting important? What are you actually doing? I don't even see examples of what's on the cards. And that's fine. I wish that, these videos weren't all of the content. Give me some animations, give me some text even, give me a link to the rulebook. Something on there. Need more. Just launched, but that's kind of probably where it's at, but that's So Sus. Last up here, we have Bushido, the card game. Again, mentioned it last week. $3,000 funding goal. It's about 20% of the way it's funded right now. And I believe this is a reprint. It's a push your luck set collection game for 2 to 5 players where you have dice. You're going to be rolling, trying to allocate them to virtues, get enough virtues, press the daimyo, and you win. So a little bit of the rules right at the top of the page. I like that. How you win. So you have a primary condition and you have a secondary condition. There's also abilities that the daimyo has. So you have to have matching or exceeding those pictured on the daimyo from the virtue side of things. And you only win if you meet both the set requirement and the secondary condition. So, you have to be able to do both on your turn. How are you actually playing? Roll dice, allocate one to the virtue or the daimyo card, set them aside if you can't or don't want to do anything else with them, re-roll until no dice remain. Collect any cards that have been completely allocated towards, resolve any abilities, and then rinse and repeat. Pass the dice to the next player. And so, obviously, that is, as you can see here, the dice number allows you to swap virtues. So there is a little bit of take that. Again, it seems like a nice just take that sort of die rolling card game. I don't think it's anything abstractly unique, but it is what it is. It'd just be really easy to get to the table. So let's check what else you need to know. Again, like rules, less than a minute. I agree. What are you getting here? Okay, so Kickstarter bonus. All the supporters get an additional alternative art card. Okay, you can play online already. A little bit of animation here of what you're actually doing. Video, future, what the tiers are. Some stretch goals. A few more videos, and that's it. So what is the price point on this one? I kind of skipped over that, but we'll do it alongside here. $15 for an early bird for the first 24 hours or so. So you'll probably have enough time if you're watching this video early enough to get one of these early birds. And otherwise, the price point is just $19. The daimyo pledge gets you the stretch goals. That's, oops, spelled that one wrong. Smoking Aces. And that's a different game altogether. And then 2 copies of everything. So you're really looking at $15 or $19. So there you go. Bushido, the card game. So that's it. That's the roundup for this week. A few things out there. Thankfully, not a whole lot more interest from my side of things. I got to decide on a bunch of pledge managers. If you're like me, I got like 4 or 5 pledge managers sitting open. And I got to allocate some funds there because I have been putting those off. And so that is my big weekend task. I've got a couple games I got to get played. Deliverance, Mechanical Beast, Battle for Eternia, Tidal Blades. I have a bunch of stuff that needs to hit the table. Yeah, let me know what you're backing. Let me know what you're playing this weekend. Let me know what's caught your interest. Tune in next week for the roundup next week, and then tune in tomorrow for the upcoming games for next week. So again, a little bit of a lull in June. I guarantee the end of June is not going to stay the same. So if you can avoid backing stuff now, it's probably not the worst thing because there's definitely going to be stuff that's probably going to catch your eye. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for clicking. I appreciate it. Yeah, have a great weekend. Stay classy. I'll see you around.